Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great day or night wherever you are. So, if you have been tuning in our live streams on Discord, you're already familiar with this model and with this scene. This is a statue model made by Leila. You can follow her work on Instagram and also on ArtStation. So, she sent me this model, and in one of our previous live streams, we tried to basically develop a scene in Maya and render using Arnold render to try and see if we can create an interesting looking lighting setup to show to try and show the model, display the model in its full potential. And here's the result from Leila has posted on her Instagram. The result from that live stream. But then off stream, I did some changes and tried to create a new render. I think this is an overall improvement to the previous render. You can see in the previous render, there are so many distractions going on that distract the viewer from basically the center of attention should be supposed to be the model. But you can see the background is too bright, or there's this light from top that is not clear where the source is. And there's too much fog, or the atmosphere is kind of too intense, basically. So I tried to improve that lighting setup. Now the main light source is only from the background. You can see that this is supposed to be a sunlight shining through that window, and also the contrast is a lot higher compared to the previous render. You can see which shows the model a little bit sharper and helps to bring the center of attention or focus to the model and shows the details of that model a little bit better. At least I think. So here in this live or in this video, what I'm gonna do, I thought to myself that we have already invested so much time on this scene and on this for this render, so we might as well also export or render a short video animation. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try and make a camera sequence and show the model from different angles, or maybe at the end we also animate the lights so the animation is going to be, what I have in mind is to use lights and shadows to reveal the model and use different camera sequences from one angle to the other to have a interesting reveal of the model in this setup. So here is our main camera view, which is the main render. We also have a different angle, this one, a closer angle, which we are going to animate the camera. Also this angle, which is a top to bottom. So first, Um, First, I want to try and animate the C1 camera. I have all my cameras in this folder. But animating this camera is very basic. I'm just going to, and I'm starting my animation from frame 0. I'm going to keyframe both translate and rotate for this camera. You just right click and set key. So this is our first keyframe. And then I'm going to go to, so each second is 24 frames. This is basically a 24 frame per second animation of video render. So each 24 frame is 1 second. I think I want to have 3 or 4 seconds of this camera. Or maybe just 3. So 3, 24 is basically 72. I'm going to go to frame 72. I can just type here 72. In frame 72, I'm going to change the position of the camera a little bit. Maybe tilt the camera to, maybe what I'm going to do, I'm going to keyframe again without changing. And then I'm going to go back to the frame 0 and then animate and set a new keyframe for that one. Or change the position of the camera for that one. So now the model is basically blocking the main light source from the background. Let's see how it looks in the... So I'm going to set a keyframe for both translate and rotate again. Now let's play and see. Oh, what's going on here? We did something wrong. I'm not sure what we did wrong, but... Okay, let's go to Window, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. Let's just delete the first keyframe. I'm not sure what happened. Let's just delete that one. Okay, let's try again. Let's keyframe both translate and rotate. Okay, now it's working. I'm not sure what we did wrong in the first try. Maybe I'll add a little bit of zoom too. Yeah, I'll zoom in just a little bit towards the model or towards the head. Just a little. I'm trying to keep the head in the center. Let's keyframe again and let's see. Okay, I think now looks more interesting. So here's one shot from this angle to this one. For the C2, the top to bottom, for the top to bottom camera, I want to have the camera spin around the model. So this time it's probably going to be a little bit different, because if you just keyframe, for example, if I just keyframe this one here and then again go to 72, maybe make a little change, rotate the camera to, for example, this angle. Let's see the transition. I'm not sure it's going to be the path that I have in mind. You can see in the middle, because the camera is just moving us straight from point A to point B. So in the middle, maybe if we set a path for a camera, it's going to make it a little bit more interesting. We can also set a new keyframe, for example, maybe in frame 40. If we set a new keyframe, something like this. It's not as smooth. The transition is not as smooth as what I have in mind. So I'm going to try something else. I'm going to duplicate the camera. The camera C2, I'm going to duplicate once. I'm going to go to frame 40, duplicate again. Then I'm going to go to frame 72 and duplicate again. Now we have 3 different instances of 4 different instances of that camera in different positions. I have hidden the cameras in viewport. I'm going to enable the visibility. And then let's just hide everything else. Oh, we can do something else. Let's get this out of the folder. That's better. Okay. Now, you can see that the cameras C3, C4, and C5. So I'm going to try a different approach for this transition. This time, instead of keyframing the camera, I'm going to create a path or a curve for the camera. I'm going to go to the top shelf, curves, surfaces. And there is this tool called EP Curve Tool. So we're going to draw a spline or a curve from point A to point B and then to point C. And we're going to use the snap feature of Maya to snap to point. Basically, each of these cameras is a different point. And for the short key for the hotkey for the snap to point is V. Whenever you hold down the V key, you can see it turns on a snap to point. So using the EP curve tool, I hold on the V and then make a point in the first camera. That's the starting point of the curve. Then I'm going to go to the second point. Again, hold on V, click again. Then I'm going to go to the third point. Do the same thing. Now, we have a new curve. And we're going to use this curve to align the camera, to use it as a path for a camera, for the transition of that camera. Now we can just delete these cameras, and I only needed those to create this curve. But we need a different kind of camera, a different type of camera for this animation. I'm going to go to the Create menu. In the camera section, there's this option called Camera and Aim, which is different than just a simple camera. I'm going to make a new camera and aim. And then to tell Maya that we want this camera to be using this curve as a path for transition or animation, I'm going to select a camera group. You can see for the camera and aim, we have a camera group which consists of the camera and it's just a null object for the aim. I select the whole group and then the curve. And then I'm going to go to, we have to go to animation, constraint, motion path, attach to motion path. Now, if I look through that camera, which we just created, and if I hit play, you can see that the camera is using that curve to transition from point A to the destination. But there is this problem that the camera doesn't have any aim, which we just need to set the aim to focus to the model. And what I'm going to do, previously I created this focus for the model to just a null object to basically use it to see the distance between the camera and the center of attention or the focus for that camera. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this focus. So to aim the camera at the model while it moves from point A to point B, I'm going to use this focus that I've created. And I'm going to select focus and then aim, and then go again to constraint and then parent. Click on the square next to parent. Disable maintain offset, and then add. Now the aim is exactly the same position as the focus. Now if I look through the camera, you can see that throughout the animation, it focuses, or the center of the camera is that focus or that aim. Basically, the camera is aimed at that focus object that I had created. Now let's change some of the camera settings. I'll change the focal length to, I think it was, let me see what it was. C2, it was 80. 80 film aspect ratio 0.8 and vertical. Okay. But you can see that there is still some offset compared to the C2 camera which we had here. There's an offset. The model is not completely inside the frame of the camera. Okay, let's so the transition is smooth, but the problem is that the model is out of frame. And to fix that, let's delete the parent constraint tag. Then I'm going to move the aim okay. So this time, also let me try something. Let's display film gate so we can see the frame of the camera. So I'm just gonna make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure that the model is completely inside the frame. Okay, it's almost identical to the first one. And then, again, using the focus that we had, select focus, select aim, then. But this time, using the parent constraint, this time I'm going to enable maintain offset because we don't want to relocate the aim constraint. Then add. Now this is exactly what we were looking for. You can see compared to the C2 camera that we keyframed, you can see the transition is a lot smoother if you use a path for a camera instead of keyframing your camera. You can also make the transition smooth if you keyframe, but then you have to go through all the trouble of, you have to know how to, for example, here for the C2 camera, you have to know how to manipulate these animation curves, these graphs, which is a lot more time consuming compared to just using a path for a camera. So this one was, let's see how it looks in the render. We can also somewhat see the animation but be careful because it might really crash. So make sure you save if you want to try something like this. Okay, I think I'm happy with this one. So we have two different camera animations. One is this. The second one is this. No, not the C2, sorry. This camera 1. For the third one, what I have in mind is something like the C1, but instead of changing the location of the camera, what I have in mind, let's duplicate C1. Let's just get rid of C2 and then duplicate C1. Now we have a new C2. What I have in mind for the third camera angle is instead of animating the position of the camera, what I want to do is I want to change the focus of the camera from the background to the foreground. So for example here, to change the focus, you have to go to Arnold section of your camera shape in attribute editor. To change the focus distance, enable the DOF depth of field, and then I want to change the focus from the foreground. You can go to display, show heads up display, object details. If you enable that, it shows the distance between an object in the viewport and the camera that you're looking through. So now we're looking through C2 camera, and if I select focus, you can see the distance between these two is 366. So if I render from camera C2, I want to change the focus from 366. You can see now that the model is completely in focus. I want to change the focus from foreground to the background. So I'm going to go to perspective so I don't change the position of the camera. I'm going to duplicate focus and rename it to focus BG. Focus background. Change the position to right next to the window. Now if I look through the camera C2, you can see the distance is 1153. So let's I'm going to go to frame 72, keyframe focus distance, then go back to frame 0. Wait, why do we have a keyframe? Oh, sorry, okay, I was looking through C1, sorry. So for C2, keyframe focus distance 300, go to frame 0, 1110. Keyframe once again. Let's render. You can see now the background is in focus. So it changes the focus from background to foreground. We can't see that much in the render, but okay, so we have 3 different cameras. And then for the final camera animation, it's a reveal animation. Camera wide is the main camera view. So I'm going to duplicate camera wide and change the name to camera reveal. Look through camera reveal. Again, go to 72, keyframe, translate, rotate, and also focus distance. Go back to frame 0. Just repositioning the camera so that it's kind of, the camera is, we're getting further from from the focus or from the model. Sorry, not that. Let's set key for the position. It's a little bit fast. Maybe we can also try something else. We can also, instead of repositioning, let me take a look at graph editor. We look at the graph editor. I think what I want to do, no, not the, okay. I had to change this one instead, sorry. I'm going to explain in just a second what I'm trying to do. Okay, instead of getting the camera further from the subject or the model, I'm also going to animate in camera attributes. I'm going to animate focal length. So for 72, I'm going to save this focal length. And for frame 0, maybe something flatter, or okay, let's try this one. Let's see. It's too fast. Way too fast. Let's just delete this, or okay, let's try this. Let's set key and see. Okay, I think this one looks way more interesting. So this technique is called focal shift. We should try to only animate the focal length of the camera, but try to maintain the position of the subject within that frame. So physically, the camera is not moving. It's just, sorry, the camera is moving, and at the same time, the focal length of the camera is also changing to keep the subject or the focus of the frame within that same within that same frame. But still, I think it's a little bit too fast. Let's see. We also have to set a keyframe for the focus distance. So the keyframe is going to be 901 for the for frame 0. Let's run the camera reveal. Okay. So for the frame 0 we have this, and for the frame 72 we have this. And let's change the position of the camera just a little bit. Minus 320, minus 305. Okay, something like this could be where we start. (964) is a new focus distance. 964, 964. No, I think the previous one was a little bit better. I'm not really sure about this one. Let's keyframe again. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to render this one to 970. Yeah, 970 is the focus distance. Okay, now we have 4 different cameras and animations. So now that we are done with the camera sequences, I want to try and animate the lighting setup to see if we can make some interesting transitions or animation for the light. For the light, what I'm gonna do, I think I'm just going to go to frame 72 and keyframe everything. Just keyframe the intensity for all the lights. So just keyframing the intensity. And if you have exposure, also exposure. We have exposure here too, so yeah, maybe the exposure too. And also the position of some of them, not all of them. Maybe let's see which one of these we want to reposition. The background for sure. We definitely want to reposition that one. We also might want to reposition this one. So I'm going to keyframe that. I'm not sure we're going to reposition that. So let's not make it too complicated. So this is what we have for frame 72. Now, if I go to frame 0, for this one, for the spotlight, I'm going to change the intensity to 0. Okay, it doesn't do that much. It doesn't really. Let's try this one, the front light. Okay, let's change the intensity to 0. Also the exposure to 0. The spotlight, I think instead of keyframing the intensity for the spotlight, I'm going to reposition it. So let me target the spotlight to the focus. Select focus, a spotlight, constraint, and aim, maintain offset. Okay, so now if we reposition, the focus or the target of the spotlight is still the same. We're only changing the angle of that light. Now, let's keyframe the translate. We don't need to keyframe the rotate because that automatically changes based on the position of the spotlight. Let me just go ahead and graph editor. And delete the keyframes for the rotate of the spotlight. So it looks like this in the middle. And then it changes its rotation. Now for the background. The background is far more important. For the background, I'm just going to change the intensity for the window to 0. And also the room light, which is a filler light that illuminates basically the walls behind the statue. Also change that to 0. And the background spotlight, we have a second spotlight for the background. We're going to also change that to 0. So the animation is kind of like a sunlight. You can see with just 2 keyframes, we can animate sunlight. Let me update full scene because I think there's something going on in the background, which is not. It's not supposed to be. So what is it that's. Because these two are both 0 intensity. Where's that light coming from? Is it. This one is also 0. Is it this one? It might be. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. I'm not sure what we're gonna do for that. Because if I set it to 0, then it gets completely black. I don't want it to be completely black. I want it to be okay, let's try black, but maybe 0.1 or 0.2. Point 4 or 3. What if I change that spread to I'm just trying to see if I can find a way to avoid this background. 0.02. No, that's not indirect. Nope. A specular. We can change this, but if we do, then it looks completely fake. If I zoom in, you can see the model looks completely flat. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to. No, not that. Maybe. Maybe I'll change the position of it. Let's. Okay, let's go to frame 72. Let's keyframe the position, go back to frame 0. See if we can try and. Okay, if we do this, if we change the rotation of the light, it does what we want, but let's keyframe that, but let's also change the intensity to 0.1 or 0.2. Change the roundness. Nope. Or we can also change the scale. So let me go back again. Let me also keyframe intensity. Let me go back to frame 72. Keyframe scale. And then in frame 0, I'm going to scale down. Scale down the light too. So hopefully we can only focus the light on top of the model. Change the intensity to okay, it's closer to what I have in mind. Scale it up in this direction. Okay, let's keyframe translate, rotate, and scale. Now this is a transition that I was looking for. Exactly. Okay, let's save, and also let's render through C1. This one also looks very interesting. Also C2. No, not this one. Reveal C1 or camera shift. Yeah, looks cool. Okay, I think we have what we want. And now what I'm gonna do in render settings, I'm gonna change the frame animation from name.ext, which is a single frame. I'm gonna change it to name.numbersign.ext. If you wanna render animation, you have to change that. Change the start frame from 0 to 72. Renderable camera C1, C2. We don't want this one. Reveal camera wide. And also camera 1. And so I'm going to render this sequence. For the rendering sequence, you have to go to rendering, render. There's this render sequence. For batch rendering, you need a separate license for Arnold. If you don't have a license for batch rendering, you can just use render sequence. Render sequence, you can change the camera. You can only render for a specific camera. We can enable all render enabled cameras. We can enable that too. So Arnold renders all the cameras. You can choose a output file location, which I'll just use the images folder for that. And then I'm going to render sequence, but I'm not going to render now. I have some work to do still with Maya. So I'm going to leave my computer on for tonight, and I'm going to render sequence while I'm not working with the computer. And then I'm going to show you the result tomorrow morning or tomorrow night. So that's it for today. I'm going to see you and show you the render sequence tomorrow. Okay, have a great night.
The next day.
Okay, so one day has passed. We have some test renders from last night. Let me show you some of the results. Here's one. And here is another camera. We also have this. And also this one. So overall, I'm happy with the results. But yesterday I forgot something very important. I forgot to add shake effect to each camera. To add shake effect, you just need to select your camera. For example, I want to add shake to camera C2. In the attribute editor, you just have to go to the shape tab, and then there is a section called feedback. In the feedback, you just need to enable shake. There's an option called shake enabled. By default, it's just 0, 0. There's a very simple script or expression that you just need to use to add for the shake. Let me show you the expression. So here's the expression that we use for the camera shake, kind of a handheld camera shake. Camera equals to noise, frame in speed, and amplitude. So speed and amplitude is something that you just need to find by trying different values to see which amplitude, what amplitude and speed works for you. Frame is just for each frame. We don't change that. But for speed and amplitude, I usually use these numbers. For the speed, I use 0.025. For amplitude, I use 0.005. So let's just copy this expression from Notepad. To add an expression, you just have to right click and then create new expression. And then here in this box expression, let's paste the copied script. For the camera shape, you just need to copy the default object value, camera C2 shape. Horizontal shake is the same. noise frame, and the values are just set as we already had. Let's also copy this. And then after you're done, you just hit create and then close. You can see that the color of that box has turned into pink or violet. And this one is horizontal shake. So if I play, you can see there's a little bit of movement for the camera, but it's only in one direction. We want the camera to have this shake effect, but in both directions, not only horizontally, but also vertically. So for the vertical shake, just like the horizontal in the box next to that one, create new expression, just paste the same script. I'm just going to replace vertical shake, horizontal shake with vertical shake. The values and everything else is just the same. Create, close. Now let's look to see. Now you can see that the camera moves in both directions. Maybe for the vertical, let's try a different speed so that it doesn't have the same speed for both directions. Let's change the speed for vertical from 0 to 5 to 0.40. Let's also change the amplitude just a little bit from 5 to 7. Okay, I think it looks all right for this camera. Let's go to the next camera, C2, C1. Let's try it for camera 1, which if you recall is a camera that was attached to that spline. For this camera, again, we're going to the shape tab, shake enabled, create new expression, just paste the same script. Change the name of the camera, create, close. Let's hide the light so we can see clearly. Also wanted to change something else for this camera. I wanted to go to the graph editor, camera group, and make some changes to the. Oh, first of all, before I forget, I think 72 frames is too short. Let's make 72. If we multiply 72 by 2 is 144. Let's change it to 144. And let me extend the graph to so it covers the whole area, and also extend it beyond. So I don't want the camera to start and stop moving exactly where the animation starts and stops. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to move this and also maybe make some changes to the handle. If you hold down Shift and with a middle click, you can drag these points that you have made in the graph editor in only in one direction. Okay, let me change the handle. So let's take a look. Okay, it looks slower. Not sure why it stops here. Why does it stop here? I'm not sure why the camera stops moving here. It's supposed to continue up to 144. Okay, anyway. Let's do the same for the lights. Extend the graphs to cover the whole timeline. If you click on this, use all lights in viewport, you can also see the transition for those lights, the animation for those lights in the viewport as well. It's not as good as or as reliable as a render view, but it's better than nothing. Okay, now let's continue changing the shake value for camera 1. So that was horizontal shake. For the vertical, create new expression, and let's change the values just a little bit. Also change horizontal to vertical. I think we need more higher speed and also amplitude. Let's Change the speed to 45 and amplitude to 0.1. Also change it for the vertical, 0.05 to 0.15. I think the vertical might be a little bit too much. Let's change it to, or maybe change the speed to 0.3. Okay, I think now looks fine. Let's go ahead and add the same effect to camera reveal. Let's also change the animation graph edit, the animation graph, to extend it to cover the whole area. Let's add shake, horizontal, accidentally set key. Create new expression, horizontal, change the name. Let's see if the values are correct. I think here, horizontally, we don't need that much shake. Maybe first let's create new expression for the vertical. Change horizontal to vertical. Create. Okay, let me tone it down for the horizontal. Change the amplitude from 7 to 4. The speed from 35 to 30. Edit. For the vertical, change 7 to 8. Okay, I think we have got what we wanted. Now we need to wait for another day, for another night, to render and see if everything is just as it's supposed to be. So we just have to wait until tomorrow, and then I'll come back with new renders which probably is going to be the final set of renders that I'm going to show you tomorrow. So that's it for tonight. This was just a short video for tonight. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Many frame building attempts later.
Okay, so some time has passed and we finally have the final renders. So here's one of the cameras. Here's the second one. And here's the third camera. The final renders, and then I just did some quick editing inside After Effects. I added some color grading, some light leaks. You can see here I've added this, just a footage of light leak. Here's the raw footage. And I overlaid that on top of the render. Some lens scratches around the corners. Also here, I've added some dust. Here's the raw footage of the dust. I added on top. It's a very low opacity. 60% for the dust, for the scratches, 20%. It's very subtle. For the third one, I also added some light leaks. Here you can see it's very easy to notice. And here's the edited version. Also transitions between different cameras. So the whole animation is about just 12 seconds, less than 12 seconds. We render 300 frames, each camera 100 frames. I shrinked it to 100. So in total, it was 300 frames. And it took about, I think, a full day, just 24 hours of rendering to render everything with some high quality. She doesn't have any noise, any noticeable at least level of noise. So yeah, that's the final version of our animation.